I know one thing that all parents have in common. We love our children. We want what's best for them. And I know that if you clicked on this video, a video that says the number one mistake that parents make when raising their young athletes, I really know that you love your child enough to make yourself uncomfortable, to hold yourself accountable, to challenge the way you think a little bit, and to get into a space where you would do anything to help them be successful. My name is Rick Williams, better known as Coach Rick. And in today's video, we are going to do exactly that. We're going to talk about the number one mistake that I believe that we make as parents when we're raising our young athletes. We're going to do it in a way that doesn't come off judgmental, that doesn't come off overly critical, but just ultimately is here to help us always get better collectively, because I understand what it is that we ultimately want. We just want our young athletes to get the most out of the situation. Maybe you're like me and you played sports your entire life growing up, and you know exactly the beauty that came from that. You know all of the lessons that you learned while you were playing sports, and you want that for your child. Maybe you're like some others that did not have a great experience playing sports, and you know the toll that took on you and how that sort of robbed you of a lot of joys that come from growing up, and you don't want that for your young athlete. And then maybe you're not a sports person at all, and you just see this light in your kid's eye when they come home and they just love sports, and you can see them just coming alive when they're competing, and you want to do everything you can to foster an environment for growth for that. Well, we understand all of that, and in today's video, we're going to talk about what we need to do to help our young athletes be successful. So what is this mistake that we're all making? The number one mistake that parents are making when raising athletes is they are personalizing adversity instead of personifying adversity. That's it. If we can just make that little shift in our mind, then we can create a growth environment and always get better mentality in our young athletes, and that will allow them to get the very thing that they want. So how do we do that? Let's first talk about the mistake, then we'll talk about the solution. So what do I mean by personalizing adversity? Well, here's what we do. We look at a situation. Let's take, for example, this guy right here. This is Coach Paul. I have created a person called Coach Paul, and Coach Paul is clearly very political when he's coaching. This is representation for that coach that we all know is making decisions on playing time that's ultimately affecting our kid in a negative way, and we are accusing them. Whether we have evidence or not, proof or not, is a secondary conversation. Let's just all concede the fact that this is true, that Paul the politician is coaching our kid unfairly. And so this is adversity that our young athlete is going through, and we want to do everything we can to protect them from this situation. So the mistake that we make is we personalize this. We give this a name. And so now when our young athlete is not getting the playing time, the reason why they're not getting the playing time is because of Coach Paul. We call him by name and we give him a person, and now I have a space that I can go to as an athlete that is separate from the space that I need to go to. And I can sit in that space comfortably, and I can say, this is not about me, this is about Coach Paul. And then you as a parent can start to think about different ways in which you can navigate Coach Paul. Well, what can I do? I can send an email to Coach Paul. I can set up a meeting with Coach Paul. I can get other parents involved and try to get Coach Paul removed if we get enough. If none of that works, you know what I can do? I can just leave the school. I can go to another coach and say, Coach Mike will fix my problem. Coach Sarah will fix my problem. We're doing this all around the country. We are personalizing adversity, and Coach Paul is the enemy. And we're trying to do everything we can because we love our young athletes to navigate Coach Paul. Or maybe you're one of the lucky ones and you've got a great coach who's playing everyone fairly or playing everyone according to how much they're putting in, and you're enjoying your experience with the coach. But then you have this young lady as your teammate. This is Beth, the ball hog, and everyone has Beth the ball hog in their neighborhood. That athlete that seems to be too good and arrogant and smug and doesn't want to pass the ball and is selfish and self-absorbed, and we're calling her out by name. We're getting in the car after the game and we're saying, if only Beth had passed you the ball, you would have had a better game. If only someone could get Beth to be more selfless, then it'll be better for my kid. So same way in which we react to Coach Paul, we react to Beth, and we do everything we can to navigate her. We either get other parents on our side to be against her, or we look to transfer into a place where Beth is not on the team. And then in the same way, we get in the car and we personalize Beth. And so now as an athlete, I have a different space I can go to. The reason why I only had 5 points is because Beth didn't pass me the ball. Now, if Paul or Beth haven't done it for you, you've got great teammates and you've got a great coach. I know we can all relate to this guy. This is Obi. Obi, the oblivious referee. Obi, the oblivious official. We've all met him environment, and we've all at some point personalized what's going on with Obi. He's missed the call. He hasn't gotten to his position to make the right call. He seems to be picking on your kid. He's not allowing the game to be played with a free flow. He's calling more fouls for your team than he is for the other team. And somehow we have made it personal. If only Obi had made better calls, if only he had brought his glasses to the game, we would have had a better experience. This is the number one mistake that we are making as parents, is to take this very, very natural sense of adversity, the same adversity that I know for a fact that those of us who are in the parent space right now were raised in an environment in which adversity was a part of our life. I don't think very many people get to this space where they're now parenting and they're now going into these youth sports situations in which they are complete strangers to adversity. We've had it before as parents and we've come through it. And now on our way through it, what do? We want to do everything we can to have our young athletes not go through it. It's because we love them. It's because we want what's best for them. But it's ultimately the biggest mistake we're making. Now, unlike a lot of coaches, I'm not interested in having a discussion or arguing with the fact that these are true situations, that these are real situations. I think there's a situation going on right there in youth sports, particularly in the sport that I love in basketball, where people want to blame the parents and want to pretend like these things aren't happening. It's all the parents' fault. The parents are crazy and the parents are not realistic. And that's the problem with youth sports. That simply isn't true. The fact is that some of these things exist. And so I'm not here today to tell you guys that you're seeing things or that these things don't happen. What I'm saying is that we have to stop personalizing them and start to realize that they are a part of the process, and they are a very, very important part of the process. I'm not here to tell you that these things aren't happening or these entities don't exist. I don't want to have an argument today where we talk about the fact that this is all the parents' fault. Quite frankly, it's not the parents' fault. I could do a separate video, and in fact, we probably will at some point on this channel, do a video in which we talk directly to Obi and to Paul and to Beth and try to help them always get better. But in today's video, we're simply focusing on us as parents. What can we do to flip this perspective so that we don't look at things and make things personal? Because I'm going to tell you something that I've learned throughout my playing career, throughout my entire professional career, everything that I've done. Paul, Beth, and Obi are everywhere. That's what I know. I want you guys to get to know me a little bit in today's video. Between the ages of 5 and 18, that's 13 years of my life, I went to 15 different schools. I was moving all the time. I was the new guy all the time. I was in a new environment, in a new neighborhood all of the time. This idea that the next place is going to be somehow different is something that for me I was only able to have that thought for the first couple of times. And then after a while, when you're moving around as much as I did as a young kid, you start to learn a very valuable lesson that I want to then spend the rest of my time making sure I can try to take that lesson and give it to you so that you don't have to experience it in the same way that I did. But that lesson is that Paul and Beth and Obi are everywhere. And don't be small-minded into thinking that it's just about this particular people. But my point is that bullies are everywhere. Bad coaches are everywhere. Bad officials are everywhere. I like to say it very casually that there's a target in every neighborhood. I've never been to any state in the union that doesn't have a target. And in that same way, adversity is everywhere. And so when we personalize adversity and we make it seem like it's about a particular name, if I could only navigate this particular person, then I'm going to be okay. I got news for you. It doesn't work that way. You're going to navigate Paul and you're going to run into Obi. So at some point, we have to figure out as parents, how do we personify adversity? And that's what I want to do with you guys today. I want to have some fun. I want to be a little bit whimsical with this awesome technology that exists nowadays with all this artificial intelligence. We've used some of this to create some fun images and just kind of see if we can't personify adversity. A very, very successful advertising campaign ran by one of those main insurance companies, right? And what did they do? They personified mayhem. Brilliant. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And he goes into every commercial and he says, you want to avoid mayhem like me. And now we can all personify that particular actor, that particular person in that commercial. He's the mascot that ran into the back of my car. He's the big brother that broke my rim outside. I love that commercial. Every time it comes on, I think it's so clever. And I think that we can learn from it as parents and we can begin to personify adversity. And then once we've done that, we can start to teach our young athletes how to have a great relationship with adversity. Okay, so let's do it. Let's meet Lady Adversity. Look at her and all of her chaos, all that she represents. She's got everything that you could possibly encounter when it comes to this youth sports journey. She's got injury. She's got an official. She's got this clipboard over here that's telling you that she's going to rate you and rate you fairly or unfairly. She's got this politician look to her. She's got everything that we could possibly run into when it comes to our youth sports journey. And it is extremely frustrating when she shows her face. She is difficult to navigate. She is menacing. I will grant you that. But here's the question that we all have to ask ourselves. Does adversity breed character? That is something we have to establish as parents and as athletes ourselves. We've got to start with that basic answer, because depending on how you truly feel about that question, it will help you shape your perspective on adversity. If you believe that it actually does breed character, then you will welcome it when it comes. If you believe that adversity ultimately, if not navigated well, can break a person down, then you will, rightfully so, do everything you can to avoid it. I do believe that adversity breeds character, and let's go to the tried and true book of the Bible to prove that point. We're going to go to the book of James. We're going to go to chapter 1, verses 2-4. And it reads, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." We talked about this in a video not too long ago where we were talking about you reap what you sow. What you put into the ground is what you get out of. And so that process of getting out of the ground is the process of maturation. You have a young athlete in your house right now who, when they are done growing, is going to be a full-blown apple tree, pear tree, successful college basketball player or NBA basketball player or high-level high school basketball player. But they have to first go through that maturation process. Well, the maturation process involves adversity. It involves problems. It involves this chaotic person that we ultimately are trying to avoid. We need to not avoid her. We need to lean into Lady Adversity and allow it to do its job. What's another way of talking about maturity? You hear it all the time. Maturity is to be responsible. And when you think about that word responsible, what I like to do is say it a lot slower than we usually say it. To be responsible is to be response-able. When you are able to respond to anything that comes your way, that is the truest definition of responsible, and that's the truest definition of mature. And that is what we want for our children. If we're honest, yes, of course we want sports accolades. Of course we want them to win the game on the weekend. Of course we want them to get in the car happy and feeling of joy, but not at the sacrifice of them growing up to be responsible, mature, able to respond human beings. And so the number one mistake that we're making sometimes is we're removing the very thing that's going to allow that to happen. The reason why at this stage in my life I am very capable of responding to whatever comes my way is because I have a life full of adversity. It is because I have made it through every experience that I've had to this point, and so have you. That's the beauty of being parents. We have gotten to a place in our life where we are now able to respond to having children and having to provide for them. And we do our thing. We find our way to be ourselves. We find a way to get our little nook and still take care of ourselves. But at the end of the day, we know how to put someone else before us. It makes us mature, responsible human beings. And so we've got to do the work of making them ready to do the same. And perseverance through adversity is exactly how that gets done. Here's the coolest part about coming to this realization. Once you start to really embrace the fact that adversity does breed character and that you've personified adversity instead of personalizing it, then all that's left to do is to start to see her in her true form. Instead of having a visual where you look at adversity as this chaotic picture, you start to see her in her true form, which is this bright light, this person that is really smiling and is really here to help. It's something to lean into, not something to lean out of. Now, you do need a strong sense of character and a strong sense of self-esteem and a strong support system in order to get this done. One of the founding principles that we teach here at Always Get Better is how the importance of care. Now, I want to be very careful with this point, because if you're working with someone who doesn't have a lot of care at home, or they don't have a lot of self-care for themselves, they're not eating well, sleeping well, having good hydration, having good nutrition, having good hygiene, then they don't have the capacity to absorb adversity. And so a person like that, yes, adversity can crumble them. So the love that you want to give them is in the support and in the care. Just surround our children with care. Let them know that you're here for them and that you love them enough to let them go through some stuff. And then they will have the capacity to absorb adversity and see her in this light, where she's really here to help us. That's our our idea for the day. I'll tell you a funny story. My wife and I were young parents. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And not so long ago, we were watching Scooby-Doo, old school cartoon. You guys remember Scooby-Doo? My wife came downstairs and she was like, Rick, I don't know if this is the best thing for the kids. It's got ghosts in it. And I stopped and I said, if you really think about it, the whole concept behind Scooby-Doo was to do what at the end? They always revealed that behind the ghost was just Mike the librarian. And that's what was the genius of that show, is that it actually taught young people to not be afraid of ghosts, to be able to say that in their mind and to flip that in their mind and to personify them as not real and not scary. But someone who says, hey, never, ever embrace ghosts. Ghosts is a scary thing. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. They'll always grow up being afraid of ghosts. And we know ghosts aren't real. And that's how I look at this as well. Make sure that as soon as you possibly can, you create enough care around your young athlete that they're able to absorb adversity. And then you teach them how to personify adversity and not personalize it. So now you know the number one mistake that parents make when raising athletes: personalize adversity. And then you also know what to do to avoid that mistake. You're going to personify adversity. Treat it like mayhem from the insurance company, and make sure we know that it doesn't matter if it's Paul or Beth or Obi. You're not going to avoid them by going to a new neighborhood. You are going to just simply say, this is adversity coming and we welcome you. You're supposed to be here. We're ready. We'll surround our athlete with care. They'll be able to absorb that adversity, and then they'll become the responsible athletes that we want them to be. Now, listen, I will fully acknowledge that it is difficult to have conversations with your athlete after the game, depending on how the game went. I understand that that can be hard. And so having all these idealistic approaches is one way to go. But sometimes right after the game, you need to have a specific approach depending on how that game went. So what we did at AGB is we created a document that we think is helpful, where we kind of broke down, if this is the scenario, if you played well but won, what should you say in the car? Versus if you played well but you got blown out, what should you say? So we kind of broke down all those different scenarios that you could see, and we gave you some bullet points on what we think are good conversation points to keep your athlete's mental strength up, to keep their resilience up, and to keep their annoyance with you as their parent down. So if that's something that you think will be helpful to you, it is free and it is available for you to download on our website. Just go down there, click on the description below, and we will have that available for you. As of the recording of this video, we are just shy of our first 100 subscribers. We're so happy to have you guys. All of you think about this all the time. People talk about, 100 subscribers. That's not a lot on YouTube. I understand that. We're not silly. Here's the thing though. If we were to walk into a room and there were 97 people waiting to hear what we had to say, how much gratitude would we have for those 97 people? I know for me, I would have a ton of gratitude to walk into a room with 97 people, say, I have a message for you. I have something I want to say. I want to share an experience with you. And I want to tell you some things I think are going to help you. And if 97 people were willing to say, I'm in, I'll listen, I would be very, very thankful. So for those of you who have engaged with our channel to this point, we want to keep growing. I know we're going to get to that 100 mark. And when we do, we're going to celebrate. We're going to go live, right? So take the scripts away, take all the B-roll away. We're just going to go live and hang out with you guys, watch some basketball, watch some film, answer any questions you have about getting recruited, answer any questions that you have about our program. And then we're going to do some giveaways. But here's the thing. I got some ideas on what I want to give away, but I want to hear from you. If you like our channel, if you want to see us grow and you want to engage in our live that's coming up here soon, I want you to put in the comments whatever it is that you think will be a good giveaway. We could do some basketballs. We could do some discounts to what we have going on our site. We could offer you some help for any camp that you want to sign up for. We could help you with your AAU fees. You tell us what you want AGB coaching to help you with. Put it in the comments. We will make sure that we add that to our giveaway when we go live to celebrate our first 100 subscribers. That's our video for the day. Thank you for engaging. Until the next one, always get better.